Hi, this is Kelsey Blaho, and I'm going to be talking about helping students realize their learning norms and how I do that in my classroom. So the first one we're talking about is relationships. And according to the video Leaving to Learn, they focus on relationships being the number one thing. So one thing that I most recently learned about in a staff meeting we had was restorative practices in circles, and it was just such a cool, impactful thing that us as a school are trying to promote more of, just having that restorative practice, not only um, with some of the stuff we've seen in the world lately, and just trying to restore students' relationships with each other, with other staff, so that student to staff relationship, and then staff to staff and student to student. So just trying to focus on doing that. And it was just a really cool practice of students getting to connect with each other and answer questions and just grow closer together. So I'd love to incorporate more of that into the classroom. So I'll definitely be doing that, especially in one of my teen choices classes where we talk about a lot of sensitive topics. So I think that would be a really good way to have students make connections. And then in just some of our other classes, like even English and math, they were talking about doing in there as like a way to review and still, again, building those relationships and having test scores go up. So I think that's super important. And I think all the students want to feel like they have a connection and a relationship to someone in the building, especially after the pandemic. And I'm going to do a lot of get to know you games and one-on-one conversations. I like to take my class on class walks just to connect and get to know each other. So we'll do little check-ins that way. And then I think it's also super important to set expectations early on so that students kind of know what they can expect from me and then from each other. And I think that just helps build trust as well. The second one is relevance. My content area is very relevant. You can see there's a little image up there, family consumer sciences, real skills for real life. So I think the relevancy component is maybe a little bit easier because they're very life applicable skills. They may not necessarily see that in the moment, but I think later on down the line when they run into something that we've talked about into class, they can be like, oh my gosh, Miss Blaho talked about that. So making those connections of what they already know, what they want to know, and will continue to learn in the future, I think is important. And a lot of project-based learning, so having more projects that connect to the world around them, I think will be really helpful, and something that I already try and do in the classroom. But yeah, relevancy and making connections to their life and currently what their experience is, so constantly drawing on those conversations I think will be really helpful too. Time is a big one. I know it's one thing we all wish we had more of, but investing in each student, making sure that they know that they are capable of learning, I think is really important. Just spending one-on-one time with students as much as possible, trying to make those connections again with building relationship, and then just making sure that I spend time with them. And then also meeting those students where they're at, so making sure that they have the time they need to be successful on an assignment or a project or just even answering a question, just making sure that I give them that time, whether it is time and a half. Also, there's this other new thing our school is trying, and there's a book all about it, equity and grading. So we're going to be starting to implement that. So it'll kind of shift time as well in the classroom. So I'm excited to start doing some of that as well. Timing. So I think this is also important. A lot of, again, our content is kind of built off of other units, and so they're all intertwined and connected, but they kind of build on each other. So that's something that kind of happens already, and then allowing students to kind of progress how they need to and how they see fit. So this is something I definitely still need to work on in the classroom, but having self-guided work or self-guided assignments I think is cool, and then some self-guided projects intertwined in there. So just trying to find ways to incorporate that within my content. And then play. Again, I think my content is a little bit hands-on, whatnot, but trying to find ways to, again, see it from the administrator perspective and try and make sure that it is being taught all subject area, so giving students options for how they want to show something, giving lots of hands-on tasks and some free time to explore those KWL charts just to figure out what they wanted to learn more about. So getting more information about what they're excited about and passionate about, I think, is really important. Practice, I think definitely spending more time on certain units could be really useful. And then also continuing to practice those new skills throughout the year. So I put an example of there of like one unit we might learn about and spend a lot of time on at the beginning, but then they're also continuing and using those skills for every other unit. So when it was kind of building off, so an example is equivalence in cooking. So they might learn that at the beginning when we're talking about kitchen utensils, but then they're going to use it for every recipe we use later on down the line. So just continuing to practice those skills and continue building off of them. And I can see this apply in any other content area. And then I included this quote up there: practice isn't the thing you do once you're good, it's the thing you do that makes you good. So that's from Malcolm Gladwell, and I just thought that was relevant to this. And then choice. I like to give options for my students on how they want to complete things: video, presentation, graphic, that kind of thing. I need to work on some other areas like what they will learn. So giving them choice on what topics they want covered. I think I could improve there. But yeah, those are kind of some options I already give them. I know choice creates a lot more excitement because students have the option to figure out what they like and what they don't like. So definitely need to incorporate more of this. And then authenticity is number 8. So again, I feel like my content is like that. I'm trying to find ways to create authenticity in other classes throughout the school. And I think it starts with teachers being authentic in front of their students. I think that's really important. I feel like I do a really good job of being authentic and showing who I am, so that they can display authenticity to me. And then I included a Brene Brown quote up there: authenticity is not something we have or don't have, it's a practice, a conscious choice of how we want to live. Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen. And I think that's just super important, being authentic in the classroom, but then also making our content authentic is another really valuable component as well. And I think the students see that too. Challenge is number 9. Do I feel appropriately challenged? And that's from the Leaving to Learn video. So finding that appropriate amount of challenge for each student, which might look a little bit different depending on the student and what or kind of where they're at. I think this can be done a lot with asking questions and seeing where students are by simply how they answer. So having more things be more open-ended and leaving room for students to ask their own questions and find their own answers along the way. So not only me asking them questions, but having students asking their own questions to me, having them ask questions of their peers, and then taking those questions and actually answering them. So I think that could be a cool project-based learning opportunity for them answering their own questions that they have. And then application. I touched a little on project-based learning, but I started to dive more into what that looks like and just trying to make those connections outside of the classroom and trying to have maybe higher stakes on the final project. So having this project-based learning can play a role to do this. And again, I've been trying to incorporate more of this in the classroom. And that's like making more connections to the world around them. So I put a little example up there. There's 7 elements. So they have a challenger problem, there's inquiry, so the authenticity component, student voice and choice, reflection, critique, revision, and then a public product. So that's that application component of displaying their product to the world or to admin. It could be parents, it could be someone in the community. So having that showcase of what they've learned. And it might even benefit someone in the community too. So super cool. So here's my standard correlation, relevancy, and reflection. Sorry, it's kind of hard to read at the top. And then my references. Thank you for listening.